Today I'm going to be walking you through a commander deck for Aminatou. Well, it's more of an expression of my mental state. I call it Passive Bitch Tribal. There are 3 goals to playing this deck that will be explained as the profile goes on. 1. Avoid responsibility. 2. Procrastinate and stall. And 3. Avoid critical information. Let's move on to my deck list. I've split it up into several categories. First category is blink targets. Outside of every planeswalker in this deck, we have simple blinking targets for just Aminatou. For a cheap card draw, we have Baleful Strix, Wall of Omens, Augur Bolus, and Watcher for Tomorrow. These cards provide a consistent baseline to any of your strategies. Watcher lets you add a card from the top 4 cards of your deck to hand repeatedly. Cloudblazer and Muldrifter provide our more expensive card draw, but they let you spiral out of control if left unchecked. Lets you ramp out lands, and Trinket Mage lets you tutor out cheap artifacts and the set of artifact lands I'm running. Section 2. Advantage Engines. This is the most important segment of the deck. Oftentimes you'll be left in a state of clearly winning thanks to these pieces, but as you're almost never the fastest deck at the table, you can convince people that it's not you who needs to be targeted. This comes into Rule 1, avoiding responsibility. Sometimes you just have to gaslight the rest of the table that another player is the main threat. I recommend doing this by looking at your opponent's board and quickly pointing out any and all expensive cards they own to prove that it is they who needs to be targeted. This can make you look poor, desperate, and sad, which is exactly what you need to cover up our bullshit. Basically, every planeswalker falls into this category of advantage engines, but I've split these cards into 2 smaller categories. For advantage machines and advantage cards with optional removal. In the first category, we have planeswalkers like Narset Transcendent and Karn Scion of Urza, who just consistently pull cards off the top deck and have a high loyalty number, making them obnoxious to attack. More importantly, we have cards like Scroll of Fate that combos with your Aminatou to cheat a card onto the field as a manifest, and then you can blink it to have it enter correctly. Necropotence is also an easy include here, as it lets you draw as many cards as you want each turn. Do be careful though, this card can mess with the perception people have about the deck. Remember, you're trying to look sad. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, is in this deck because I'm tired of losing to Mill. Soul Herder is a nice source of blinks for the first category of cards, and Azcanta is a nice and simple top deck filter that turns into ramp later. I don't run tutors in this deck, so these cards are very important. I do this because I don't know what I want either. For the second category of cards, we have Planeswalkers that give value and have optional removal effects. Planeswalkers like Sorin Grin Nemesis and Professor Onyx fit this category perfectly. Each Planeswalker can function as card draw or use their minus ability for removal or damage. I've arranged them in the following order of most to least strong. Dakan comes in clutch as one of the cheapest removal planeswalkers in this deck. Jace kinda sucks in Commander, but his toolbox is very value. Kaya can either blink a unit or force a discard and draw. Pretty useful, but it's not the best in the deck. To be honest, most of these feel really interchangeable. Wizards of the Coast planeswalker design is really bland. Part 3. Stall cards and passive hate. Now this brings me to what I think is everyone's favorite section of cards. That's passive hate and stall cards. This section does the legwork to maintain Rule 2 that's not covered in the cards in the previous section. We run cheap hate pieces like Drannith Magistrate, Ashiok Dreamrenderer, and Narset Parter of Veils. For some reason, people hate these cards, but I can't seem to figure out why. Maybe it's because I'm forcing players to play with their here and now cards instead of running away and searching their deck and running to their commander. Running Mystic Remore and Smothering Tithe, because if it isn't taxing to be around you, you're doing it wrong. Next, we run Dovin Bond because your opponent shouldn't go on and activate creatures without you. Kai's just here to pop Soul Rings and other cheap cards, but mostly Soul Rings. Teferi Time Raveler is here to be toxic. If interaction isn't happening on your terms, we can fix that. Then we have Teferi's Protection, because abruptly leaving an interaction because you're about to lose is a great way to make sure you get your way. Then we have our miscellaneous removal. Counterspell, Swords of Plowshares, Oath of Liliana, Cyclonic Rift, and Terminus. Terminus synergizes with Aminatou's +1, and Oath of Liliana can be blinked, and it gets value for planeswalkers being played. Part 4. Diamond is Unbreakable. Wait, Part 4. Combo pieces and win buttons. So we have our combo pieces that when put together let us win out of nowhere. Felidar Guardian and Spark Double let us create an infinite blink loop with Aminatou. Oath of Teferi, Panharmonicon, and Alter the Brood let us profit off this loop. This means we're always about 5 mana off of going infinite. This is really where Rule 3 comes into play, withholding critical information. If you have one of these pieces, it can be worth it to withhold playing them until you can secure all of the cards being cast. The cards in this section tend to make people irrationally afraid of your board, and therefore they might target you. Outside of the combo pieces, this deck has other win-con cards. Will Kenrith and Teferi Temporal Archmage are going to help us spiral out of control. Command the Dreadhorde and deploy the Gatewatch are going to throw us infinitely farther ahead with our planeswalkers and some creatures. Remember, you can use Aminatou's skill to stack a planeswalker from hand to top deck, so you'll always be able to hit at least one unit with Deploy the Gatewatch. Deep Glow Skate and Elder Spell let us cheese out our planeswalker alts. Thanks to Wizards of the Coast almighty planeswalker design, just about every planeswalker alt is a win-con. We also have Temporal Mastery to force the table to spend a bit more time with us. This is an easy clue in the deck because Aminatou can just stack it to the top deck. When I do this, I like to pretend I bricked and have to use Aminatou's skill to fix my hand. It works every time. One last note about this segment, if an opponent ever gets mad at you for going infinite or winning out of nowhere, it is their fault. They should have been paying more attention to you. Section 5, Ramp Artifacts. Running a pretty standard mana artifact package, the Esper Signets, Arcane Signet, and Soul Ring make up this package. I love to run Mana Crypt and Mana Vault, but Wizards of the Coast hates poor people. Before I forget to mention it, we're also running Mirror Maid to duplicate our enchantments and artifacts. This deck has a lot of great targets like Panharmonicon, or if you need ramp, you can just hit Soul Ring. Section 6, Miscellaneous Bullshit. I'm putting all the generic good stuff the deck runs in this section. Here we have Ponder and Brainstorm. Here we have Wishclaw Talisman and Limdul's Vault, only 2 tutors. Remember when I said I didn't run tutors? Well, I lied. I run Limdul's Vault to waste everyone's time and stack either Felidar Guardian or Temporal Mastery, depending on what I think I can get away with. I run Wishclaw Talisman, because Aminatou can blink it back after using it to search your deck, and then you can search cheaply again. Part 7, Land Base. Our land package is pretty not notable. However, there are a few key cards I want to point out. For example, we run 1 fetch land, Flooded Strand. Can anyone guess why we only run this Flooded Strand? That's right, it's the cheapest fetch land. Make sure to point that out to your opponent, as it makes them feel bad for you, as you can only afford the 1 fetch land, the cheapest fetch land. We also run Karn's Bastion for extra proliferation. Oh yeah, bit of a note about the 2-sided lands when they are blinked. They re-enter with the 1 mountainside facing up, and the ones with spells don't re-enter at all. This is a fun ruling to pretend you don't know. People instantly stop taking you seriously when you banish your own lands. I'm going to rate this deck on an arbitrary scale. I think it's a 7 out of 10 on the Commander Power scale. I'm not sure though, because every place I go, people have different standards for that rating. Now, on to the more important rating of this deck. Is it effective at making everyone feel like shit? Yes. I've been kicked out of 2 Commander groups for playing this deck. Though, the more I think about it, it might not have been the deck. No, well, thanks for watching. I know this content isn't exactly Vanguard related, but since I've already covered all of the relevant Vanguard decks, I didn't have anything to upload, so I made this. More Vanguard content is coming out around the time of Set 3's release, but I am curious if anyone wants content from other card games. Please subscribe, like, and comment for more content in the future. See you then. One question can anyone answer for me before I actually go? Why are Magic deck profiles called deck techs? I think it's stupid. Please answer. Who started this trend? Tell me.